Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So we got the new handicap marks come out today, and I think there are, I think there's a few, I was going to say plenty, I think there's a few that are very interesting going forward for a number of different reasons. Most of them actually over fences, and we'll start off looking at Jericho de Repenay, who dropped £1 to 134 over fences. Now, he has essentially been given a mark of 134 now over fences and over hurdles. I think he'll be back over fences very soon. I think his run at Newbury was just to make sure he got round, enjoyed himself. I don't think there was much intention of actually trying to win the race. It was just about getting round, getting the saddle on him at the beginning of the race, which I think all went fine. Yeah, they might have then been hoping to win the race, but I think they've now set this horse up for the rest of the season. You know, okay, it all worked out. He's fine. We know what to do now. We can now go back over fences, where I think when he ran at Sandown, I thought he was incredibly well handicapped when he pulled up. I thought he would win that comfortably. And everything went wrong for him that day. But I think a lot of his troubles happened before before even jumping the fences. I think there was an issue with him coming into that, not during the race. I don't think the fences were the issue. It had already happened. And I think he'll be much, much better next time now that he's clearly, settled down again. Whatever was causing the issue at Sandown, I don't think did at Newbury. And I think he'll be back over fences, and I think he could be one that I think he could be very smart. And off 134, sorry, I think he is very, very well handicapped. And I think they might go 2 more races with him now this season. They are the Timeform Novices Handicap Steeplechase on the 25th of January. Give him another couple of months to get over those runs at Sandown and Newbury. Run here in this race at the Timeform Novices Handicap Chase. Off 134, I'd be very disappointed if he got beat. I think the step up and trip will really suit him. He is a 3-mile point-to-point winner. I think he wants a bit further now. Even his run at Newbury kind of suggested he wanted a bit further. Maybe he did get a bit outpaced. Go there and then end up in that 2.5 novice handicap chase at the Cheltenham Festival, which is now a handicap. And I think they've got one there that it started the season a complete mess. I think they could end the season in great form. I genuinely could see Jericho de Repenay winning at Cheltenham, and then ending up in the Grade 1 at Aintree, and running a big race at Aintree as well. I do think he's really, really good. Moving on to Gallia de la Toe, who's dropped £2. Let's just wait for this to load. She's dropped £2 for her effort in the Coral Gold Cup when finishing 7th of 13, beaten 12 lengths by Can Do Kid and others. I don't think it was a bad run. I do think the horse wants a bit further, and I do think the ground probably was a bit too quick for her. And they'll come in and go, yeah, we couldn't go that pace. She wanted further. She needed softer ground as well. And they might be a little bit disappointed in that. But they do have the Welsh National still for her. I think she will go really well in the Welsh National. Now, obviously that handicap drop to 142 doesn't take effect for the Welsh National because it was an early closer. However, if she doesn't end up in that Welsh National and they do take their time, she'll be back for that Classic Chase, won't she? She was second in the Classic Chase last year behind My Silver Lining. I think she would win it this year. She's actually back down to the mark of 142. She was second off 142. Yeah, I think she either goes really close in the Welsh National or she wins the Classic Chase off her new mark. She is one that I'm very keen on next time on the softer conditions. But her handicap mark does look quite nice. And being now rated 142, if she then won the Welsh National, they would have to take that into account a little bit. She could go up to 150 if she won a Welsh, unless she absolutely walloped him in the Welsh National. 150, would I still be keen on her going forward? Yeah, probably. I don't really think she needs to go Grand National. Yes, she would be a little bit stronger next year. and have a bit more stamina, potentially being a little bit older, but I kind of feel that's probably extending her stamina. I think 3.5 mile is ideal. For her, I would be going something like Welsh National Bet365 Gold Cup, although the ground may come up a bit fast for that race. So maybe even Irish National, because they generally have a little bit softer conditions. Yeah, something like that. But she is nicely handicapped, but I think the new handicap mark might not actually matter, because I think she's going to run a really big race in the Welsh National. Next I want to talk about is Petit Tonnerre, who has dropped in the handicap down to 125 now over fences. I think he's very well handicapped. He just needs to step up in trip. Now, I had been hoping they were aiming him at the 2.5 novice handicap chase at Cheltenham in March, but off 125, I don't think he's going to get in. And I do wonder whether he might not be good enough for that. But I do think he would certainly be good enough for this race here. There's a novice handicap chase on the 2nd of January at over 2.5 for horses rated 0 to 130. That's what I'd want to see them do now with Petit Tonnerre. Hasn't won under rules since winning on debut back in February 2022. Hasn't won another run since then. That was only a 3-runner affair. It looks very, very tricky to get right. He's run some nice races, don't get me wrong. I definitely think he wants 2.5 mile now over fences. And yeah, we're going to be waiting for him to go up in trip now. But if they do give up trying to target something, this race here is certainly perfect. He has been to Ayr before. Okay, the position looks disappointing, finishing 7th, but that actually came off a mark of 132 in a Scottish champion hurdle, only beaten 4 3/4 lengths in total. So it was a good effort. And actually, if you read the write-up, it says held up in rear, some headway, not pace to challenge, needs 2.5. Go 2.5 at Ayr, and I think he would win that. The next horse I want to talk about is Cheltenham, who has dropped. What did he drop? £3 to 139. I think Dan Skelton will be disappointed that they didn't get a run into the horse before coming for this race in November. They had been trying. They kept putting him in races and kept withdrawing him due to the ground. And I kind of feel that probably caught him out here. He probably wasn't fit enough to do himself justice. Considering he'd done so well at Newbury, to then go off 9 to 2, it's possible that he wasn't quite ready. But Dan Skelton will take second best here in terms of, okay, we didn't win and it was a disappointing run, but we've been dropped £3 for that. Not £1 or, even left on the same mark. They dropped him £3. I think that's too much. The last time he actually won was 4 runs ago at Newbury when he beat Sir Psycho. The time before that, he beat Can Do Kid, the subsequent Coral Gold Cup winner. Where do I think they go with Cheltenham? Well, I think Newbury form always works out well with Cheltenham. And he's got Newbury form, we know that. He was 3 from 3 over 2.5 previously before this run at the weekend. Now, I'd like to see them go back to Cheltenham for this Paddy Power New Year's Day handicap chase on the 1st of January, obviously New Year's Day. He's been to Cheltenham once and he fell at the 6th, but he went off the 5 to 2 favourite that day. He went a 5 to 2 favourite off a mark of 134. He's only rated 139 now. He's not that high in the handicap. And yeah, I think this would be absolutely perfect for him. I'm sure he's over that fall now. Back in April 2023, he's had what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 runs since then. He's actually fallen again since then at Ayr. Maybe he needs that little bit of time after a fall to get over it. It's difficult to tell because the last time he fell at Cheltenham, he then had 213 days off the track. But even then, last time he fell at Ayr, he had 224 days off the track. So I don't think that's the reason why he disappointed at Newbury. I think he probably just needed the run. And yeah, that Cheltenham race, I think, is perfect for him. The Paddy Power New Year's Day handicap chase off 139. I'll be backing him if he turns up there. Moving on to Les Milos. Now, I think this is this year's Langadan at Cheltenham. So, They've already got this year's Langadan, in inverted commas, or inverted speech marks, at Kempton with Phlegmatic. They've got him beautifully handicapped for that Coral. Is it just called the Coral Handicap? 85 grand, I think it is, to win that at Kempton. He's back off the same mark as when finishing a next second a couple of years ago, and lower in the weights than when he was fourth. So I think they've got that one perfectly handicapped now. Lamilos is another one I think is now perfectly handicapped for the old teamer at the Cheltenham Festival. But he hasn't won these 2 races this season. Neither did Langadan. They got him perfectly handicapped last year, didn't they? Unexpected Party won at the beginning of last season and then had 4 consecutive defeats before turning back up at the Cheltenham Festival over a trip that suited and won. Protectorate, you could even say that one, you know, he hadn't won in his 4 runs throughout the season before running in the Ryanair and winning. You know, they dropped him back in trip. I think Lamilos was ridden at Newbury hard from the front on the basis that we can go over a similar-ish distance to what we should be running over, but know we're going to get tired and the handicap is going to drop us. He got beat 26 lengths in the end, dropped £3 to 141. Now, what does 141 suggest? Okay, when he moved to Dan Skelton, he was actually rated 142 back in November 2022. He was rated 142. He went to Bangor. He won a 3-mile handicap chase by 4 and a bit lengths as a 3-1 favourite. Then went up to the Coral Trophy, or what was it called then? I think it was the Ladbroke Trophy back in it was called the Coral Gold Cup in 2022. He won the Coral Gold Cup off 146 as the 9-2 favourite. So he won a feature handicap as the 9-2 favourite off 146. And that ended up, you know, the target that they were trying to achieve was winning the Coral Gold Cup. They did it. He then was changed plan. They went for the Grand National. It didn't quite work, or it didn't work. He finished 10th. He ran well for a long way, didn't get home. That wasn't his trip. Last season, it was all about the Pertemps final. They got him qualified at the beginning of the season off 146, finishing 3rd of 5. We actually highlighted him for the Pertemps final, I think, straight away. He was a massive price, 25, 16s. He ended up going off 6-1 for the Pertemps final. Disappointed a bit, finishing 13th, off a mark of 142. Now, in my opinion, he is a chaser that was trying to win a feature handicap over hurdles, and it didn't quite work because, you know, he's a chaser, really. The hurdles didn't work for him. This season, I think it's all about the old teamer. They're coming back to Cheltenham, you know, already ridiculously well handicapped, over fences for a race and a trip that will suit. They ran him over 2 miles 6. He doesn't. Before the race, Dan Skelton said, "Oh, I think this is about the right trip for him." But you've ran him over 3.5 at Sandown. You've ran him in a Grand National before, over 4 mile 2. The last time you actually won a race was over 3 mile 2. 2 mile 6 isn't the right trip. You know that. You just used that as an excuse to try and run him over 2 mile 6 and play the handicapper. And I think they played the handicapper really well by being beaten and suggesting that was his right trip. He's dropped, as I said, down to 141. I am so keen on this horse for the old teamer. If I can get, when Phlegmatic's race comes along in February, if I can also get a double on Phlegmatic and Lamilos, they will be a nice double for me. I will be really keen on them. And to be honest, I think Dan's getting a few really nicely handicapped. Again, quietly, everyone's still got their eye on Langadan, thinking he's the one that they're going to try and do it again with. They're not. They can't. They can't do it with Langadan. He's going to be too high in the handicap regardless, isn't he? But they are quietly doing this with a few other horses that nobody's paying attention to. Lamilos being one. Keep your eye out for Madara as well, being another one that I think they might be trying it with. Moving on to Liari, who has dropped pound to 129. Now, Paul Nicholls, as I've mentioned before, he felt that this was his best handicapped horse going into the Cheltenham Festival last year off 134. So off 129, surely he's incredibly well handicapped. And I thought he actually ran quite nicely in that very competitive handicap hurdle at Cheltenham, Newbury, the intermediate hurdle. Maybe he doesn't quite have the pace for 2 mile. But also, he looks like a chaser. He's going to be a better chaser, I'm sure. He looks massive, to be honest. But he started to make good ground. So I think it was coming to the third last or the second last, and I thought he was going to get really involved. I was worried that there was a couple going better than him as well around him. Queen's Gamble being one of those. And then didn't really pick up. Now, I think if they want to try and get a win into this horse, if the idea for this horse is fences, which I'm sure it must be because he looks so big, whatever they do this season can almost be a bonus. So I wouldn't be aiming him at, trying to plan and plot routes to the Cheltenham Festival, for example. Just go and win as many races as you can with him. And I think they should try him in the Hogmanay Hurdle over 2 mile, just shy of 2 mile 4. It's back at Musselburgh. That was the scene of his last win. Back in February of 2024, he won at Musselburgh. He won really impressively that day off a mark of 127 or in the Scottish Triumph Hurdle. He won that really impressively. Go for the Hogmanay Hurdle. If it doesn't work, you can then drop him back to Musselburgh for the Scottish Champion Hurdle, which is another handicap at Musselburgh over 2 mile. And then next season, go over fences. But you might as well see if he stays further. If he does, great. It opens more options up. You're back at a course that he's won at. I think there's so many positives to running him at Musselburgh on the 1st of January, Liari. And it's probably going to be an easier race than what he's been running in the last few runs. So, yeah, I'm still interested in Liari. I just want it to be a drop in class next time. And I think the Hogmanay Hurdle, although it's still a Class 2, it will be an easier Class 2 than what he's been running in recently. And finally, the last horse I want to talk about is No Ordinary Joe, who ran at Newbury in a race that Nicky Henderson had. Just having a look. How many did he have? He had the winner, Impose Toi. He had the 5th, No Ordinary Joe. He had 8th, Gentle Slopes. And he had pulled up Spring Note. I think they were pretty keen on Impose Toi that day. They were really hopeful that he was going to win. He did. He beat the right horse as well in Guard the Moon. I think that form will work out quite nicely. And No Ordinary Joe ran as expected, in my opinion. He finished 5th. They're clearly looking at another race with him. Now, the last couple of seasons, they've been planning Cheltenham Festivals, in my opinion. After finishing 3rd in a Greatwood Hurdle, they went to the Martin Pipe in 2023. He finished 2nd. He ran a really good race behind Iroko, in front of Buddy One, in front of My Eye, in front of Imagine. That form looks really good. And I think they were hopeful coming back to Cheltenham the following season that they would potentially win the Martin Pipe the following season off 140. They'd finished 2nd off 139. They thought, we've bumped into a Grade 1 horse in Iroko. And he ran okay again. He finished 7th in a Martin Pipe that I think is still very, very strong. There were some really nice horses in front of him, and they were that had probably been the season-long plan. And with that in mind, I think his first couple of runs back, pulling up at Newbury in the Novices Chase, that didn't work. They then dropped him back to hurdles, and I think they'd already planned for the rest of the season. Then was all about getting him back to Cheltenham off a nice mark. Finished 8th at Doncaster, then went to Kempton and finished 3rd. And I think his 3rd placed effort there, they were not trying to win. I think they were coming there hoping they would get dropped in the handicap with another race in mind, the Martin Pipe being the plan. However, he did have previously some good form at Kempton. He'd won a 2 mile handicap hurdle at Kempton off 134. And I hope that they go back to Kempton. We've got to remember, when he beat Big Boy Bobby that day, Lo de Sud was actually back in 3rd. Favois was 4th. It was a good race. Can Do Kid was 7th. Yeah, it was a really nice race going back through that. I think No Ordinary Joe this year they'll give up at Cheltenham because they've had 2 consecutive seasons. It hasn't worked in each season. They won't be putting all their eggs in one basket for Cheltenham. And I'm hoping on the 11th of January instead, they go for the Coral Lanzarote Hurdle. He didn't run badly last season in February in that 2.5 mile handicap hurdle at Kempton. And he's also got that previous win to his name in a race that looked like it was very strong. If they're not putting all their eggs in one basket and they're going for whatever they can this season from after Saturday, I think Saturday's was just to get him fit. If he runs in this Lanzarote hurdle, I think he will take all of the beating. I think he will go really well because I think they'll be trying if they turn up in the Lanzarote hurdle. If they don't, and they go back to Kempton in February, they're clearly looking at Cheltenham again with him. But I think after 2 consecutive seasons of running at Cheltenham and it not working, and, not getting a win to his name, they'll now be trying for other races instead. So he's one I like for the Lanzarote hurdle. I think if you want to take one horse from this video, I really do, it's Lemilos for the Ultima handicap chase at Cheltenham. I honestly believe he is being planned and plotted for that this season after the plan didn't work last year for the Temps final. They've got him so well, because last season, if they'd ended up in the Ultima, they would have been running off a mark of 149. And they might have gone, that might be beyond him. We'd won a Coral Trophy off 146. He's higher than that. This time, if they run him in the Ultima over fences, he will be lower than when winning his first run for Dan Skelton. So the race before winning the Coral Gold Cup. I mean, he's absolutely thrown in now, and I would be very disappointed if this isn't the plan for Lemilos, the Ultima. I think they've missed a trick, but to be honest, I think Dan Skelton is the best at this. I really do. I think he knows what he's doing with his handicappers. He's getting them well handicapped, aiming for races that he thinks he can win with them, and more than happy to have runs with them that they're not trying fully. I mean, even off 144, he should have gone off a shorter price than 12-1 in my opinion for that race. He didn't, and that just screams to me that was not where he was trying. He's going to be trying when he comes back to the Cheltenham Festival, and I think that will be in the Ultima.